The hardest thing I've ever done in my life is quit smoking. The second hardest thing I've ever done is fight a boxing match. And the third hardest thing I've ever done is make a podcast about fighting a boxing match. I was simply carrying around a microphone and recording conversations at random. And in the beginning, I thought this would be a good thing to leave behind one day for my kids and grandkids to listen to. Whoa, Dad, tried to get into boxing at one point.
Welcome back to the Fish Tank, presented by Van Horn Law Group and Casabella Design Group. Seth Levit and the toughest podcaster Dan Marino ever played with in Juice. Today we are joined by maybe the toughest comedy writer in all of Hollywood. And I think it's going to be a fun conversation.
Oh, absolutely, Big Seth. When we get into this, he's going to be talking about some things that I would not do. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And I consider myself a tough guy until we talk to guys that have actually done some tough shit, man. So, look,
yeah.
We'll see how it all pans out, man. But this is going to be a fun-ass episode.
Yeah, very excited about it. I guess fair warning here to Dolphins fans. This is going to be a little non-traditional to what you are listening to when you dive into the Fish Tank under normal circumstances. This is not hardcore Miami Dolphins talk. But as OJ reminds me, when we left the Dolphins and moved into phase 4 of the tank, what do you say, Juice? We can do whatever the fuck we want. Whatever the fuck we want to do. Right. So I have fallen in love with this podcast, and I'm like, I got to find this guy. We got to get him on the show. So our guest today is Josh Corey, and I'm going to talk a little bit about who you are, Josh. But welcome to the tank, man. We're so excited to have you in.
Thanks, you guys. I'm thrilled to be here. This is so exciting to be here with Juice, to be here with you, Seth. I can't wait to talk boxing with y'all.
Yeah, well, we can't either, and probably a lot more exciting to be here with Juice. But man, I am pumped up that you're here.
Don't sell yourself short.
Yeah, no, he does that all the time, Josh. He's always looking for these little sympathy points. Man.
I'm a realist. Is that what it is?
He's looking for a little. Seth, don't feel excluded, bro. Nah, hell no.
It never seems to happen though. So I got to stop that. But so look, Josh is a television writer and producer. His recent credits, at least this is what the bio says, include DMV on CBS. Haunted Hotel on Netflix, Night Court, Speechless, a ton of other stuff. When people introduce and we pick and choose what those things are, you're like, well, why'd they forget about this project? Do you go through that when people start reading the bio? Like, really?
The thing is, I have so many credits that I would like to forget.
Okay.
I like when people leave those out. Yeah, those are the good. Those are the hand selected ones. Listen, man. You guys know you got to make money however you can. So you're not proud of all your credits, but you keep feeding the family.
Hey, Seth, he's not wrong, is it? I mean, we've dealt with some characters that, you know what, the money was always good, even though
no shame in our game. No shame in our game at all. But together with his writing partner, Josh has been writing and producing TV shows for, it says, the last 12 years. I don't know if that number is still accurate.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yep. Okay, cool. So for 12 years. But the reason I asked Josh to join us on the show, and I'm so glad that, and it was work, Juice, to track this man down, but I was so glad to get his email in my inbox.
Busy man.
Well, indeed, but he's got this incredible new podcast, and it's called From Writer to Fighter. It is episodic. I guess it's an 8-episode series. 7 episodes are already out now, and every Thursday, I am just glued to my podcast app to listen to them. But it is the true story. This is, even though he is a writer, this isn't a novel, this isn't fictional work. This is your true story of attempting to fight a real boxing match, even though you had a wedding 6 months, I guess. You had a wedding in 6 months. You were 37 years old at the time this happened. You have zero athletic experience, and you decided, I think I'm going to be a boxer. So I just...
Yeah, when you lay it all out there, it seems pretty stupid, huh?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it was against all odds story, I'll tell you that. But yeah, that's what I did. That's what I decided to subject myself to. But I'm so glad I did, because I got such a good story out of it.
An incredible story. And, certainly you are a professional storyteller, and that comes to life in this. When I first started listening to it, and I hope when I say this, it is not something that you're like, well, damn, that's not the way I wanted it to be projected. But I almost felt some of the storytelling reminded me, like, I loved the Wonder Years growing up, and you would kind of watch these things unfold. And then Kevin was also, adult Kevin was kind of narrating what was happening. And so I loved the storytelling of being able to hear what was happening, the conversations you had with all these people, but then also you really narrating this thing and doing it so creatively. And sometimes, oftentimes it was funny. Sometimes it was, there was a lot of depth of thought there and emotional. And I thought all that stuff was really cool. And I will say this, I identified with it in the sense that my athletic journey, I mean, I'm obsessed with sports. My whole life has been devoted to sport. I was a horrible athlete. Like Juice and I laugh.
Yeah.
I played an entire little league season with one hit the entire season. I have all these horrible sports stories in participating in sport, but I kind of always wanted to prove like I'm not just some wimpy PR guy. So I just felt a special connection to the show, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate all the praise. I mean, yeah, that's, you hit the nail on the head that it's this feeling of wanting your body to do something it's not willing to do. When you have all this passion, especially as a kid, from the time I was 6 years old, I was glued to the NFL. I was glued to, whatever my dad left on and left the room. And I love this stuff. I wanted to be these athletes. But, I end up most identifying with, like a film like Rudy, where
Right.
it's like, there's this kid, he wants it so bad. Oh, I want to be Notre Dame so bad, but he just does not have the physical tools. So when I sort of grew into my body, which didn't happen till later in life, that I developed a little muscle and a little length, I thought, if I don't try something like this, I'm going to regret it for the rest of my life. But yeah, it's, I was cut from every team when I was a kid. I even thought I wasn't going to make the high school basketball team. I said, there's no way that's going to happen. So here's what I'll do. I'll go play CYO basketball. You guys know what that is? That's church basketball.
Right.
So I show up to the church basketball tryout. There's 13 kids there. They kept 12. Guess who got left out? So I even got cut from church basketball. So yeah, I think around about that time I was like, maybe hang it up. Maybe I'll stick to being a theater kid for the rest of my high school days.
So good. And I, again, just connect with it, which is funny that you and I are saying this, Josh. And like OJ was still to this day regarded as one of the greatest high school athletes in Ohio history, and led with NFL receptions and all that.
It's not
stuff.
about me, Big Seth.
Well, it's just an interesting, three dudes that are just having this conversation. So you kind of alluded to the why, and I think the why of you taking on this challenge is woven into the entire storyline, at least in the first 7 episodes of From Writer to Fighter, and we can explore that in part of this conversation. But as a couple of guys who are also podcasters and to some extent storytellers ourselves, I want to also ask the question of when. Like, when did you decide not only would this be this ambitious personal challenge physically and mentally, but that this would also be a really cool story to chronicle and turn into a podcast? Like, how did that happen?
Well, I'll tell you, the hardest thing I've ever done in my life is quit smoking. The second hardest thing I've ever done is fight a boxing match. And the third hardest thing I've ever done is make a podcast about fighting a boxing match. It was extremely difficult. I had a friend who'd just lost a loved one, and she was talking to me one night about how she loved all the media that her mom left behind for her. And I thought about the importance of documenting one's experiences. And I knew I was trying to get this done. And I thought, why don't I just carry a recorder? And I had zero expectations. Like, even though I'm a storyteller, I have no experience podcasting. I listen to like This American Life. I listen to Serial and all that. And I like those stories and I appreciate how well they're told. I never in my life thought that I could accomplish that. I was simply carrying around a microphone and recording conversations at random with my coach, stuff that I thought was interesting. As I'm sure we'll get into, my coach is an extremely interesting character.
He really
just
is.
By himself. So anything he says, I thought, oh, this is worth recording. And in the beginning, I thought this would be a good thing to leave behind one day for my kids and grandkids to listen to. Whoa, Dad, tried to get into boxing at one point. And then the story sort of unfolded. And I realized how difficult this was, and kind of as a coping mechanism, after I would get my ass kicked in a spar, I would pull out the microphone and I would say, let's just talk through what happened there. I feel like garbage. I feel like a failure, you know?
Wow.
And I realized, oh man, this is getting pretty interesting. And I think if I could find a structure to this, it might be worth listening to, even if you don't know anything about boxing. So it was an interesting process to go from, let me just wave a microphone out there, to let's make something structured. So I taught myself everything. I downloaded these programs. I edited it all myself. I kind of converted it into words. I had a program that basically transcribed everything so that I could edit things like a Word document instead of like a sound file. And then I brought on other people, a really talented producer named Xander Lott and a former TV executive to help me with story. And I eventually sent it out to a documentary editor to polish. But I was finding it, man. I was just thrown into the deep end, just like I was with boxing. It was like two parallel fights, the podcast and the boxing match.
Juice, you know me, the way I'm as obsessed with that part of the story is just because we taught ourselves how to be podcasters, which I think most podcasters do. I know there's
you
this
other
have
to, right?
side of the industry, but I think the beauty of the platform are just the guys who figure it out. And so even though you work in, this Hollywood scene, it's pretty neat to hear, because I want to say, why audio only when everybody tries to do video now? And I think audio only is really cool, but it sounds like you almost had to be audio only because it just happened organically.
Well, not only that, I don't know if you've gotten to the episode yet, but there are certainly episodes where I get thumped, just destroyed. And
remember
I even
Angel's name, would you?
Yeah, remember Angel's name. But I actually say on the podcast, I go, we've got to the part of the show where I'm extremely grateful if this is an audio only podcast because it is disturbing. So it worked out that way. It's interesting, the imagination is very powerful, and sometimes I think we forget in this world where, we have everything's in 4K or in 3D or using AI stuff, that the most important tool is still your imagination. And it's fun to just, let people who are listening just imagine what they will, rather than give them an image.
Yeah. Yeah. Big Seth, I mean, I love that, that part right there, but I don't want to gloss over the why. I want to really, I haven't had a chance to obviously listen to every episode the way you have, but so I really want to know the why. Why, Josh? Did you wake up one day and decided, you want to start fighting? I mean, I know you didn't box as a kid. Was this something you secretly always wanted to do?
I've never been in a fight in any way prior to boxing. I have always had kind of an aggressive streak. Whenever I was, playing sports, I was always the most physical kid. I was committing the most fouls in elementary school basketball.
Right.
I like the contact, and I thrive on the contact. Even when I play flag football, they say, like, you're blocking too much. Like, that's too many hands. Like,
hands
relax.
To your side, Corey. Damn it.
Yeah, exactly. But so that streak was always in me, but really I was at a point in my life where I was seeking some structure, some control. What was going on in the television industry, which is still going on to some extent, is just upheaval and people unsure whether this is a long-term thing, a way to make a living. I was about to get married, which is scary for anybody. And that's a big change in your life. And, even though I love my fiance and I was excited for our life together, I was moving into this new phase, and my mom was dying. And that was something that was really throwing me. And between all these things, I was like, I didn't consciously think this, but looking back, I know that I was looking for something simple. And that became mano y mano. That became step into a ring with a man and see if you can beat that man. And there was something about that simplicity that calmed me down. And my coach and the structure that the boxing fam, I call them the boxing fam, provided, did that as well. So just giving me this singular goal in the midst of all this chaos was very calming for me, even though the punches weren't too calming.
No doubt. No doubt. So, and you mentioned a couple of the people, because I think one of the really wonderful things about the series is, certainly following your journey and through your lens, but it's also being introduced to all of these people in your life. And it's this magical ride. Your fiance, I remember he said, "I'm going to fight." She's like, what does that mean?
Vanessa's like, what?
Vanessa's like, what? And she's your wife now, right? So
she's my wife. Yes, that's a spoiler that I will allow. She is my wife now.
My bad. But, I just didn't want, I didn't want that to be the end of the relationship.
The spoiler is for some reason she went through with it.
She was getting a little testy towards the end there. She's about had enough of it. But meeting her, meeting your writing partner was quite a ride. All the fighters in the gym. But and you mentioned both of them earlier. The two characters, I call them characters, they're real people in your life, but the two people who I just couldn't get enough of. Certainly your coach, David Paul, he was fascinating juice, if I can use that term. I tend to overuse it, Josh. And your mother.
He is, though.
He really is. Let's start with him. I know OJ and I can unfortunately relate to what you went through with your mom, and we'll touch on that in a second. But because that's a much tougher conversation. But David Paul was, how did you find him? It sounds like he trains a lot of people in that part of the country, but I would love to know how you found him. And then as we find out, you really hesitated, and I want to talk about the hesitation to reach out to your dad. He kind of became this male figure in your life throughout, this very difficult journey.
Yeah, he became like a father figure to me. When I met David Paul, I had no idea he would become such an important person to me. I mean, I'm not exactly a man of God, but I can't explain how he came into my life. But he needed to be there. He needed to be there. He was just a trainer at my first gym, and he only taught one class. But that class was packed. And I was like, why are these people showing up for this little bald black guy? He was just like this little guy, old man. And I was like, what has he got to offer? And you spend about one class with him and you're like, I see. He's got a great spirit. He's got great stories, and he knows boxing, and he knows when to be hard on you. Like he says, the tempered steel method, you sharpen that steel and you cool that steel. So he knows when to push and he knows when to pull back. And that's his skill. And I basically just committed to him. I had other trainers. I was seeing 2-3 other trainers. And I said, if I really want to learn how to fight, I've got to pick one trainer so I don't get confused with all these methods. Yeah. And I got to really trust that guy. Because, I had a trainer who was teaching me how to throw a hook like this. And a trainer who's saying like, oh, just drop your hands and be loose. And then another trainer saying, never drop your hands. Right. So I started to get confused, and I had to pick a path. And thank God I chose the path of tempered steel and David Paul, because this guy is just a font of information. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. Yeah. No, it was great.
And Jossie, the other person that that Seth mentioned was your mother. And you probably don't know this, but both Seth and I, we lost our moms to cancer. So
I did know that. I'm sorry for your loss.
Yeah. Mine's God. Yeah, you never, how moms are, especially for their little boys. Man.
I do.
So
I do know how moms
we're both mama's boys. So, but I was really touched by the connection between you and your mom, and this idea that you were training for a fight, but she was truly, truly, truly in the fight of her life, man. And
there were different fights. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So why was it so important for you to include moms in this series, bro?
Well, first of all, mom's a ham. Like you put a microphone in front of her. I loved her personality. She's a vibrant woman. She'll say anything. She loves us to death. And in a way, the microphone became an excuse to have conversations that might not have had with her otherwise. And it being the end of her life or towards the end of her life, you know, I'm so grateful that I just have her voice recorded and got her to reminisce about when we were kids, when we were playing sports and stuff. And she loves to tell stories. She loves to go back in time. Every Mother's Day, we would get out the VHS tapes and watch, you know, old Christmases and stuff, like, you know, or the photo albums. So she loves to tell stories of old. Those were the best days of her life. And, you know, my mom is the most positive person in my life, you know, so when I would go in there and take a beating, it was good to go back to mom because it didn't matter what you went through, didn't matter, you know, what kind of mistake you made, and didn't matter how bad you got beat. But if you come back to mom, she's going to say, I believe in you. And she always did, you know, she was right on cue.
Yeah. And, you know, Josh, I loved, you know, through this podcast, you know, you've learned some backstories about some things with your mom that, you know, that you, you like, you know, with the coach in high school or the coach in P, whatever it was, and things like you didn't know some of the things that were going on behind the scenes, you know, and your mom enlightened you on some of that stuff.
Yeah. My mom, what you're referring to, I assume, is that my mom informed me that the high school football coach, really the middle school football coach, came to her and said, I think your son is going to get hurt. She was like, I don't know if this is a great idea for old Josh. Which, yeah, I eventually left that team for, you know, all kinds of reasons. But, yeah, it was funny. I was like, oh, I guess I didn't know my coach had so little faith in me. Thanks for letting me know.
Hey, well, at that point in time, you know, it was a character builder. So too good.
Yeah,
too good.
exactly.
And it was wonderful to get to know your mom that way, for sure. So I think whether intentional or unintentional, you know, you accomplished a lot in that regard. But we don't hear from your dad until episode, I hope I'm not spoiling
well,
things.
it's late.
Right.
It's late.
And actually, the cliffhanger at the end of the episode before we hear him was like, oh, shit, he's going to get in touch with his dad. Why was it so hard to tell your dad that you were boxing? And well, yeah, let me ask you that. Why was it so hard?
I guess I realized that I put a lot of stock in my father's opinion of me, but I wasn't necessarily conscious of that most of my life. I was an artist and my dad was not an artist. So I would make art, and, you know, my dad might have an opinion on it, but I didn't care. You know, it was just like, all right, this is a car salesman's opinion of painting or whatever it is, you know, it's like not a big deal, but everybody wants the approval of their father. And I think I am more likely to listen to my father. I respect his opinion. You know, I respect my dad. So I think I was worried if I told him I was doing this, he would come at me with a good enough argument to make me quit, you know, and I did not want to quit. Not this time. You know, I quit football in 7th grade and basketball when I got cut from the church team. But this time I had to see it through. And I was just terrified that, I guess, between my dad's concern for me physically and, you know, him just sort of making the right argument, that I would hang up the gloves. So yeah, I really pushed it to the last minute. Also, it's just like an interesting analogy that my younger brother made is the way that, you know, our parents now sort of don't tell you when they're having a health issue because they don't want to worry you. I think that those roles reverse, you know, as you get older. And now I didn't want to tell my father that I was risking my body because I didn't want to worry him. And that was just out of an instinct to protect my dad, because I knew the anxiety that he faces, the worry, the sleep troubles that he sometimes, you know, will go through worrying about his kids, as he should. I didn't want to contribute to that by being like, hey, Dad, I'm about to potentially get destroyed, you know? So it was a combination. I was doing him a favor, I thought, in my mind, but really I was protecting myself from a way out.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, Josh, let's talk a little bit about the actual fight, man? I mean, how quickly do you become comfortable, with punching somebody in the face, and more importantly, getting punched in the face? All that shadow boxing people, and obviously the shadow boxing in the elevator. I mean, to get in shape looks pretty, but it had to be a completely different deal when there's somebody staring you down and trying to knock your head off. And I guess this is a bit of a spoiler alert for some people, but you guys weren't just out there bullshitting there. You were actually trying to, you were actually trying to kill somebody, and you actually broke your nose.
Yeah. My nose was broken in 3 places, actually. And I didn't know it. I was sparring with a shattered nose for the longest time. And I just thought, I bleed everywhere. And I thought that was normal. Nobody really told me otherwise. I don't know.
You see it all the time on TV. These guys just bleed, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
He's a bleeder.
Walking around. I mean, certainly one thing that I learned from this process is I have a high pain tolerance, which is, I guess, cool, but it also can get you, you hurt more. But to answer your question, Juice, that it's a very different thing. If you box right now, you say like, I box to work out. Excellent. Stick with it. I love that. Getting in a ring is a whole different type of awareness. Having to protect your face and having to take punches and keep moving your feet and keep moving your head is just night and day. It took a long time. Luckily, David Paul has a process, and he won't get you in your gear until you're ready. But we have people in the boxing fam who don't take punches, but they give punches. And that's just, a lot of them are ladies, but a lot of them are also just guys who aren't going to fight. And he lines us up in our gear, and he calls it tenderizing the meat. And these guys just come up and they throw punches, and they start with hard body punches until you get used to that, until you get used to bringing your elbows in tight and protecting your rib cage. And then it's just like, okay, now we're going to introduce a jab to the head. And we introduce a jab to the head. So you can just dodge 1 jab. That's okay. All right, now 2 jabs. That's okay. So it's all a slow process. And then you get thrown to the wolves. But by then, it's not so stark. By then you're like, I know what it's going to feel like if I accidentally get hit. I know what it's going to feel like if I get a body punch. And of course, there are punches that no one will ever prepare you for. I box with a lot of pros, and I prefer to spar with pros. The reason why is that pros are much more under control than your amateur. So my main sparring partner, Junebug, is an undefeated professional fighter, now retired. But when you get in with him, and let's say I land a hard, lucky punch, he's used to getting hit hard.
Yeah.
So he'll take the hard punch and he'll keep his head moving and he'll relax, and then he'll return my fire. Now, when you get in with an amateur and you hit them hard, you do not know what's coming back.
They're ready to
because you've sort of flipped a switch, and they will start flailing. They might start hugging you. You never know. So it's actually more dangerous to be in there with an amateur sometimes than it is with a pro. Now, has Junebug just decided to hit me in the liver and drop me to my knees? Yes.
Yeah.
But we all need that once in a while too.
Sure. Yeah. I'm just not ready for mine yet. But yeah, no doubt.
What if going bankrupt was the best thing that happened to you? Whether it's your wages being garnished, car repossessed, house foreclosed, or you're suffocating with debt, a good bankruptcy attorney can give you peace of mind that you need and deserve. My name is Chad Van Horn from Van Horn Law Group, and I've personally seen people thrive after filing for bankruptcy. The shame of bankruptcy is just a ploy to keep you in debt forever. There is no shame to work with Van Horn Law Group to get rid of your debt for good. If you're ready to get your life back, call us today. Se habla español.
So, Josh, real quick, Big Seth, there's a question I want to ask you too. This idea of violent meditation, man. Tell me, what's that about?
I'm really into mindfulness. I actually recently did like a 5-day silent retreat to like get into my mind, get into my body. But what I was really talking about there is like, and what people are chasing with sports, you might have experienced it yourself, Juice, is something called a flow state, which is basically you are not thinking about anything but what you're doing. And you're not even really thinking about that. The body has sort of taken over, and you're just in this state of pure bliss where you're doing the thing that you're meant to do, whether that's football or whether that's boxing. I'm not thinking about what I need to do with my kids. I'm not thinking about vacation. I'm not thinking about my taxes. I am just here, and I am slipping one punch. I am throwing one punch. I am moving my foot one step. And that's what I mean when I say violent meditation. You're in this violent activity, but you're there. You're as present as you can possibly be. And I think that's what all human beings are chasing. It doesn't have to be boxing, but I think everybody wants to be present in the thing they love doing.
Juice, now I'm turning to you because you asked that question, but as I'm hearing Josh describe that flow state, can you relate to anything like that on the football field? Is there anything, I don't know, is it waiting for a punt to drop into your hands? Or I'm just wondering the parallel there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially when it comes to what we do, and Josh probably feels the same way. And so, when we get in the job, pretty much, that focus is all on what we're doing at that point. At that minute, especially on a punt. Now, Josh, when I'm returning a punt, it could be 80,000 people yelling at me or yelling for me, but it's kind of like silent to me because my focus is so much on, for one, catching that punt. Am I going to return it? Am I going to fair catch it? Am I going to block somebody? But more importantly, don't fumble this bitch. You know what I mean? Because you'd hate for your defense to give a 3-and-out or force a team to a punt, and you give it back to them on the short field, the other team on the short field, man. So I can totally relate, man. And then, of course, we always go to work with some things that are going on at home, and then we get to work and we got to focus on the task at hand. Then we can deal with that other shit at home, man. So, yeah, Big Seth, I think that when you're on the football field, it happens all the time where, all I'm worried about right now is the next player, the next player, the next play. And I got to be so focused on that, man, that, especially if something bad happened before that. Yeah. That's when you really got to get out there, and you got to get your mind right again. You got to refocus on the task at hand, which is this play that's coming up, and so on and so forth.
It's funny to hear you talk about the silence. So Josh, like Juice and I will go somewhere, or maybe he's got to give a keynote and he's like, man, I hate this. And I'm like, how could you have stood out in the middle of the field with 11 savages ready to knock your head off and 70,000 people screaming and yelling, and you're worried about this little speech in front of 20 people? And he's like, that's easy. I'm like, that's easy? Like that thing is easy? So, but it sounds like you have that experience where, as I saw you nodding your head as OJ's expressing what he went through, you're like, oh yeah, I can relate to that now in a different way.
Yeah, and the podcast is called From Writer to Fighter, and the two things mirror one another because it's not a highly publicized part of being a television writer, but I'll have to go in and pitch a TV show for 20 minutes. And back in the day, we would do it in person. You'd have to go into Sony or Fox or something, and the drive there, you have to walk into these big corporate offices. You're waiting for everybody. You're having your water. Like, this is nerve-wracking. So the ability to just be there, just get to your happy place and perform. It's the two skills sort of complement each other.
Very cool. Yeah. Very cool. All right. So let's talk about nicknames, because boxing and nicknames have gone together. I mean, all the way back to the 1800s. There's Gentleman Jim Corbett. There's Meat Market Charlie Bartlett. What a great name, Meat Market Charlie Bartlett.
Wow, I wish I put that one in there. Yeah,
I mean, there's all these great names. The Sugars, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Sugar Shane Mosley, all those guys. Iron Mike Tyson. We could go on and on forever. One of the funniest moments of this series, From Writer to Fighter, is when you and a bunch of your comedy writer buddies sit down and they start coming up with nicknames for you, or trying to come up with nicknames for you. And ultimately you land on something outside of that room, but it was something familiar. Can you talk about that? Because that was a lot of fun.
Great. I mean, I'm glad. Shout out to, Hillary Matthews, Bill Posley, Greg Gallant, and my buddy Kratz, who came over one Saturday morning. And I basically said, I'm doing this podcast about boxing. Can you guys come over and make fun of me? And by the way, that's all the information any of them needed. None of
like, where do we sign up, right?
None of them asked anything. They were just like there. And I was like, don't you want to know what we're doing? And they're like, you said we're going to make fun of you on mic. Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that I had to cut that was a lot harsher than I put in the podcast, but I'm a good sport. And so I was like, what do you think of when you think of me? Yeah, that was just really a lot of fun. Them riffing on, me being like a skinny, tall, gaunt guy. Yeah, I mean, coming up with a name to me is like, the Italian stallion, like it's something cool, like, or it's like a wrestling name or something like that. And I never thought that I would land on a name that was, actually intentionally not intimidating. That was like a little confusing. I am the Pigeon. I am Josh the Pigeon Coy, El Pichon, which is not the scariest thing in the world, but it does make people go, huh. So if they're in there with me and they're looking for me to do something pigeon-like and it throws them off for half a second, the name is worth it.
Josh, there are some pigeons in Cleveland, Steph's old stomping ground, that are some
they
badass
were nasty,
pigeons.
huh?
There's some badass pigeons, bro. So, when you walk down the street downtown Cleveland, you got to walk around them because they're not moving, bro. So don't be so, the pigeons they're some bad dudes, man.
That's how I rationalize it, man. These pigeons, they survive in the worst environments. They will not fly away until the tire is grazing their ear.
That's it. Right. That is it. The pigeon. So, and episode 7 is The Pigeon Rises. Okay.
Yeah.
And, I guess by the time, hopefully we will publish this next week prior to Thursday where your season finale drops. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know that we can't get into I really want to know, Juice. I want to know and I don't want to know because I want to experience it.
You don't want it like that.
I want to experience it in the way that Josh intends it to be experienced. But you really did this great job of, I guess, you had to have your own anxiety. I guess in the amateur fighting world, Juice, you don't know. You show up to a fight and you don't even know if you're going to get on the card. Like you train, you do all this preparation. And so I start to get anxious for you as you're in episode 7 in The Pigeon Rises.
Yeah.
We show up to fight night. And I was so caught up in it. I'm like looking at how much time is left on the podcast on the calendar there.
Are they going to show the fight or is it going to be next episode? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
like I'm going to, I literally, I'm not just hyping this up because we're trying to promote the podcast. Like I went through this experience and the episode ends the way it ends, and I can't flip and wait until Thursday for the finale. But how much of that buildup did you have to create for an audience, or were we just kind of walking in your shoes as you walked into that ring that night or that arena that night?
I mean, I'm a storyteller and I know how to work suspense, but I'll tell you, it was pretty dang organic.
Yeah.
I mean, like I was anxious as hell. And the thing that, of course, is not in the podcast is that this was not really the first time that we had been promised a fight, thought about showing up, and then pulled the plug last minute, which speaks to the frustration of my fiance, now wife, who deserves all the credit in the world. There's a part where she goes, "Oh, sure. Yep. This is going to be over. It was supposed to be over in February. We'll see." You can just tell that she just doesn't believe a word I said at that point. Yeah. And I don't blame her because, the way this amateur circuit works is there's a lot of starts and stops. You hear, oh, a guy's bringing his fighter to this fight. He's your weight. You should show up to this fight. Nah, he got COVID, or like, nah, like he chickened out or whatever, or he found another fighter. So, yeah, it's a crapshoot. Finally, at what this culminates to, which is a Centennial Square boxing show. Couldn't have been better, by the way. In front of City Hall, there's a boxing ring in front of Pasadena City Hall, outdoors. It was like fighting in Caesar's Palace. You show up, and if you don't have what's called a pre-match, which is you don't have a pre-existing agreement with a fighter and their coach, you show up, you weigh in, and on the day you start to haggle. you start to just say, I want this guy. Well, he's got 4 fights. I don't want to fight that guy. And everybody does all this arguing. And again, this world is foreign to me. My coach knows about it because he took his son all the way through the amateurs. But I was in the abyss here, not to mention stressed about getting my head knocked off, but I just wanted to do the right thing so that I could get a fight. So that was added stress. You see why you got to meditate and all this? There's so much stress.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Man. Josh, you obviously transformed from writer to fighter. But from what I understand, and as I can see, you're a huge NFL fan. I see you rocking that Rams hat on right now.
That's right, baby.
You were never a Raiders guy, right?
I was never a Raiders guy. I mean, look, had the Raiders been the team to move to Los Angeles, I might have said, okay, those are my guys. But yeah, I'm a Rams fan. I have been for only 10 years. I was not like a St. Louis Rams fan. Right. I just made the decision when the Rams came to LA. I go, okay, let's just put all the support behind this team. Let me just support the local team. And for the first couple of years, man, that seemed like the wrong decision. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I know that's right.
What the hell did I just do?
Right. And we definitely know you're the Chargers guy. And, that seems like that is. But for what I understand, we both cheered for the same team at one point.
That's right. Yeah. So I was a Cowboys fan for about 17 years. And first of all, I want to say I missed all the glory days of the Cowboys. I was a Cowboys fan the entire 17 years I was a Cowboys fan. They won 2 playoff games. Right. So I would say I was
Romo was your guy. Romo was your guy.
I am a huge Tony Romo fan. I to this day love Tony Romo. I have a Christmas ornament of Tony Romo that goes in my tree every year.
Tony Romo Christmas ornament.
He graces the Rams Christmas tree, huh? You let Romo get on there, huh?
I do, and I put the Rams colors up there. Of course, I've got my Rams jersey. I got to get a Puka statue soon to put on that, and maybe put on the top. But I was going to say the way that I came to the Cowboys was interesting. I was raised in upstate New York. That's where I'm from Binghamton, actually. Oh, okay. And my dad was a New York Giants fan, so I was watching all the Giants games. It wasn't, they weren't very interesting. But when Bill Parcells moved and decided to coach the Cowboys, I thought, I've heard a lot about this Bill Parcells guy, but I was too young when he was coaching the Giants. So I kind of followed him there. I liked Drew Bledsoe a little bit, and lo and behold, in like that first season, it was Tony Romo time. And I was like, who is this guy with guts, just slinging it all over the yard? Doesn't care if he throws picks. He's running. So I fell in love from there. Yeah, I was a Cowboys fan for 17, sometimes long years.
Well, it's a good thing, Juice, he got started after he missed the glory years, but
I sure did.
OJ's not the biggest Jimmy Johnson fan you'll come across.
No, negative. No, he's not. He's definitely not my guy.
I hear that. Well, now you he was your coach too, right? Jimmy Johnson?
That's when I didn't like him. Okay. That's when I hated him more. Yeah, that's what I didn't mind him when he was coaching the Cowboys. When he came to us, that's when I realized this guy is a straight douche. But that's a whole different story, man.
Yeah, I hear. I watched that. Now you had to have watched that Netflix documentary about all the Cowboys and the Jerry Jones years.
I would never, Josh. I would never cheat on my team watching anybody else, bro. No way. I watch the Dolphins on Hard Knocks. I don't watch any other Hard Knocks series because only my team. Wow. I only care about my team, bro. That's facts, right?
It's traditional. No, it is. So, a lot of athletes
that's really cool, actually.
Separate the business and the, and their fandom, and it's just a job and what have you. And no, OJ he says all the time, he is the biggest Dolph fan who played for the Miami Dolphins. And the other player that Channing Crowder says all the time, he was at the alumni box, and OJ's telling people to shut the hell up because he's trying to watch the game. And Channing was like, "Oh, damn, Juice, you really give a shit. What happened here?" So yeah, he's very much into it. Very much into it. Too good.
I love my football. I support I watch all the teams. I really just enjoy the sport. Anytime there's a good game, it could be Bucks Panthers or something, and if it's coming down to the last couple drives, I tell everybody, be quiet. I'm watching this game.
Is good ball.
So
yeah,
good ball is good ball. I'm into it, but I love my Rams, and how can you not with McVay right now, man? We are having a good old time.
Yeah, they're doing it right. They're definitely doing it right.
I'm really kind of throws that in our face, Big Seth.
He did, and we thought we were getting that, right?
Thought,
Mike McDaniel, we thought he came from the same coaching tree. We were going to get all that stuff.
Right in our face.
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel would be good in your writer's room, perhaps. But
but maybe not as the leader of men.
Yeah, he's out. I mean, not with your team, but he's
in LA.
Might run into each other.
I mean,
at the same restaurant.
I think he'll do an excellent job for the Chargers when he doesn't have to. When he doesn't have to wear the crown, he can just design an offense. They have so many interesting pieces. So I think he'll be an excellent coach for them.
We agree with you. Harbaugh can be the hard ass, and he can just be a creative genius, and it'll probably work out. And he's got a big, strong son of a gun as a quarterback, and all those things might work out. I know you've got to get to work, speaking of the writer's room.
That's right. 14 hours, man. Is the 14 hours started yet, Big Seth?
Yeah.
Luckily, I have not been on a show that hard in a while. Luckily, I'm on a show that's much more reasonable now. But listen, man, you don't get to choose your hours in the writer's room. Sometimes it's, you just stay there till the script is done.
Stay there till it's done. Wow. Interesting stuff. So we're going to get you out of here in just a second.
Yeah.
But we wrap up every episode the same way. This is the Fish Tank. It is a football podcast. So we end every episode with the Fish Tank 2-minute drill. Now, you've watched a million 2-minute drills as a big football fan. And normally we're pulling the athletes in and they're asking us how many timeouts and what's the down distance and all that. Well, you now go from writer to fighter to 2-minute drill quarterback. We're going to throw a few fun questions. Hopefully they're fun and, certainly fast paced and then we'll get you out of here. Sound good?
Great.
All right.
2 minutes on the clock, Juice. Let's do it.
I'll get it started. All right. So you said you've never really watched boxing, but you watched the Rocky movies. Who was the only Rocky opponent you would never want to face in the ring?
Ivan Drago. Come on, man.
Drago. If he dies, he dies.
I don't have the size. That was unrealistic in Rocky IV that he was even hitting him in the face. I'm not sure Sylvester Stallone could reach Dolph Lundgren's face.
Stay away from Drago, no doubt.
Yeah.
All right, you've made it clear. We just talked about it. You've got a real love for the National Football League. If your wife, Vanessa, gave you the green light to get back in the ring for one more fight, because I know you had that agreement, but for one more fight, and you could pick any NFL player, past or present, Cowboys or Rams foe that you had to fight in the ring, who would that NFL player be?
Oh my goodness. I love this. Let's see. For me, if this is going to be past or present, well, I should pick a kicker because then I could beat him.
Right. Kick his ass. Little kicker.
So, I should go with Brandon Aubrey or something.
There it is.
There we go. Okay.
My money's on the pigeon. Put my money on the pigeon.
Right.
I got the fight.
I'll take Aubrey. Maybe Justin Tucker. I'll take Justin Tucker.
Yeah, a couple of those guys.
He deserves a good beating.
All right, Josh. You took a leap of faith when you jumped into the boxing ring, right? Mm-hmm. So answer this question. Would you take a leap of faith returning a punt in the NFL when your head's up in the air and everybody's coming for you like Seth talked about?
I would love to do it just once.
He's got a high pain tolerance.
I think I'd be doing what you said you were doing, which is just don't fumble. Just don't fumble. Just catch it. If you get hit, that's fine, but just catch it and hold on. Probably what I'd be just waiting for that fair catch.
Right.
Right.
There it is. All right, Corey's waiting for the fair catch.
As long as I wait for the fair catch, I think I can handle it. Yes. Okay. But if I had to get hit, no, that'd probably be the end of me.
Too good. All right, last question. We're on the goal line here. You got to punch it in, Josh. We understand. You've made it very clear. You grew up a Cowboys fan. You're now a Rams fan, which we respect. You cheer for the hometown team. But we need to know, this is a Miami Dolphins podcast, who is your favorite Miami Dolphins player of all time?
Whoa. I would take Juice out of the conversation, even though he would be one. Here's what I'm going to say. Jay Fiedler.
Oh, I love that.
Jay Fiedler, that's a touchdown. That's the 2-minute drill, Juice.
Dude,
Fiedler, I don't know if you knew him personally or whatever, but I remember watching one highlight where he ran for the goal line and he got his head knocked off, but he scored the touchdown. And I was like, whoa, that guy's tough. That's all I remember about Jay.
Say that it's probably that Raiders game post 9/11. OJ played with Jay in the final years of his career. He played with Jay, and that was when I was working for the team. And we're actually working on a documentary of that game. So, we might have to bounce a few things off. I swear to goodness.
Wow.
Cover of Sports Illustrated, Big Seth.
Yeah. He made the cover of SI. I'll text it to you. He made the cover of SI after that. So very cool. This was so much fun, man. We have a third, I don't call him a third wheel, but a partner. We used to do post-game radio, and there's another Dolphins podcaster, Travis Wingfield, who we absolutely love. And I say he's my favorite podcaster, and it's cool to be able to talk to my favorite podcaster, text him and say, hey, I love that episode. From Writer to Fighter is one of the best podcasts I've heard in a long time.
Thank you.
It was really cool to be able to spend this time with you. I'm grateful that you gave us the time. I can't wait to see hear how it ends. Anybody who's listening to this, if you made it all the way to this point and you trusted us that even though it wasn't a Dolphins podcast, it would be a great interview. And you were right. Please go check out From Writer to the Fighter. It's everywhere, right? Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Anywhere you get your podcasts.
Very cool.
So good. Hey, Josh, man, thanks for diving in, man. This was exciting. It was so good, brother.
Thank you. I really appreciate you guys. Are smart questions, and I hope you keep listening. And I hope, for your sake, the Miami Dolphins have a winning season.
Hey, check this out now,
see
Josh.
Those Rams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Juice.
that's what I'm saying. You can have an AFC team now, bro. You got an NFC.
You never know, man. Malik Willis can scramble his way to the playoffs.
There it is. There we go. That's it. Why not us? Great stuff.
Number one, of course, y'all. This ain't no ordinary sports talk. Never been that fish tank.